And as Lewis said, I'm the artistic director of Inclusive Dance Cork. And joining me this evening, we have the very fantastic Marc Brew. Hiya, Mark.
Hello, that's very kind of you. Hi.
How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm in
Ex-
Scotland, is where I'm located at the moment, just out of Glasgow.
Fantastic,
So,
fantastic.
hello to everyone around the world who's here with us.
There's a lovely group of people from lots of different places, which is absolutely incredible. And that's the one of the things that I love so much about the arts is that it brings people together from every corner of the world. So
Mm.
for those people, Mark, who for some reason or another may not necessarily know who you are,
Mm.
can you tell us a little bit about yourself, Mark Brew?
Well, firstly, who would not know who I am? No, just joking.
I know, have they been hiding in Mars?
Oh, yes. No, well, I'm Australian. I've got a great sense of humor. I'm good looking. No. So my name is Marc Brew. I use him pronouns. I am a disabled choreographer, director, performer. I use a wheelchair, which you can't see at the moment. Um, but I've been working in inclusive dance and as a disabled choreographer for over 27 years now. So
Mm.
it's been a long time from being in Australia to then being in New York, working in New York for many years, and then being in London for many years, working with Kendigo Dance Company, and then with my own company, Marc Brew Company, which I started in 2008, which was to be a vehicle for me to make my own work and share my work with an audience.
Mark, if I could take you back a little bit to the very early days of when you started working inclusively, because you ended up working in that line of work. What was the impetus for you wanting to do that?
Well, just to give a little bit of background, in Australia, which is where I grew up, I had a very, I guess you'd say, like a traditional form of training. I wasn't born with my disability. I acquired my disability when I was 20. So I went through doing jazz ballet at the local dancing school to
Mm.
moving to boarding school in Melbourne to study dance and academic. If anyone was familiar with FAME, I thought I was going to like a FAME school. You know,
Yay!
music, there was dance, there was drama, and it was all
Mm.
exciting. So I learned a variety of different styles there through my high school period. And then I went on to the Australian Ballet School
Mm.
and then the Australian Ballet Company. And then I moved to South Africa to dance with the national company there called Pact Ballet. And then I was in a car crash, which, as you can imagine, in anyone's life is a shock and, um, yeah, unexpected in a life
Mm.
of seconds, as we know. So that's where I acquired my disability, and I got a spinal cord injury at C6, C7, and then am paralyzed from the chest down. And of course, being a dancer, through my training up till then, I'd never been exposed with anyone with a disability in the dance world in Australia, which is quite isolating or isolated country in a way. And yeah, I didn't know what to do, but I sort of knew that I still wanted to dance. I still felt that passion and that desire. And then once I was, on the road to recovery, let's say,
Mm.
oh, most of my friends were dancers. And of course, people said to me, oh, you need to go back and retrain and do something else, go to university and so forth. But I'm like, no, I want to dance. That's who I am. And it's part of I felt like it's part of who I am. And I just wouldn't take no for an answer and just thought, okay, well, I'm going to have to make my own way. But, in 1997, when the accident happened, there wasn't anything like that in Australia, so I felt like I was very, yeah, isolated and yeah, didn't know what to do. But yeah, thankfully I had friends who were dancers, and eventually we then got back in the studio and started to explore what I could do using my wheelchair out of my chair, being partnered, and that set me off on an unexpected road,
Mm.
doing my career as a dancer and choreographer, but with a disability.
And and Mark, you can choose to answer what you want, and if you don't want to, that's fine too with me. So
Mm.
you decide, okay?
Okay.
And so how did that feel then for when you got back into the studio after your accident and you had to learn and work with this new way of dancing and this new body and these new mobility aids or whatever you want to call them. How did that experience feel for you?
Yeah. well, as a dancer, like dancers know their body so well, and
Mm,
often you're used to being injured as a dancer. So
mm,
for me, I was treating like, oh, I'm injured, I've got an injury, being very naive. I'm in 20, like, oh, it's fine, I'm going to get better. It's all going to work out. And then once I got in the studio and started moving again, of course it was different. It wasn't the way I used to move. Um, and I had to actually at the beginning, like not look at myself in the mirror because I was like comparing to myself, how I was before and how I was now. And I just had
mm,
to go back to like what does dance mean to me? And that's why I had to keep on asking myself, what is it that I love about dance?
mm,
Is it about striving to have beautiful feet, wonderful extensions? I mean, yeah, I mean they can be useful, but in the essence for me of dance is about being able to express myself through my movement, through my body, through my emotions. And I could still do that in many different
mm,
ways. Maybe
mm.
not be what I used to do or what I expected, but being a choreographer, I think that also really helped being creative and like taking it on as a choreographic challenge. Like, how can we explore movement potential this way, using restriction as an idea? What possibilities does it bring?
Yeah.
You used to say to me, I'm sure you've had these too, Rhona, oh, you're wheelchair bound, you're restricted to your chair. I'm like, I don't sleep with my chair.
Yeah, yeah. I say I'm not super glued to it,
Yeah.
you know.
So I started just like exploring how could I get in and out of my chair? How could I pull my wheelchair apart? How can I use it in different ways? So I think I just flipped into choreographer mode
Yeah,
and just went, oh, this is interesting, and being
yeah.
yes, and then of course it was frustrating. I'm not going to deny that.
Mm,
The comparison I was comparing with. I remember when I first went to New York in 1999, and I started doing classes at Steps on Broadway. And of course, I wheeled in. I'm the only wheelchair user in there doing a ballet class. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I just want to get up there and show them how to do it. And I couldn't, so, it's natural, you're feeling frustrated and you get angry. But yeah, I just had to stop looking. I had to feel. I had to feel the move. And
yeah.
body
You
was
to feel the change
yeah.
and re-collaborate. And
Mm,
it's interesting then too, Mark, because going back to what you said there about being a wheelchair user and people using language like wheelchair bound and all of that kind of archaic kind of thinking. Of course, dancing out of your wheelchair on the floor and then dancing in your chair are completely two different types of freedom.
mm. Yeah, and also, I mean, you know this too, but often your chair becomes a bit of a security blanket. Like you feel comfortable and secure in using your chair, and then out of your chair is a whole different world of exploration. So
Yeah.
that takes courage, it takes, challenge, it takes strength, it takes curiosity. And also I think, I was very fortunate about finding a group of people, of dancers that I was working with that I trusted. You know,
Mm,
my way back in as well was doing a lot of improvisation and contact improv, which has been a huge big way for disabled people to feel,
yeah.
included in the dance world is through improvisation. So and contact work. So that definitely helped me find a way. But I remember going back to the Australian Ballet Company, knocking on their door, and other dance companies, like traditional dance companies, saying, "I'm here," but they didn't know what to do with me. They're like, "Yeah, we know you're a trained dancer, but we don't know what to do with you." So
Yeah.
here's
We don't have
studio
we
space.
don't have a clue. So
And
you go figure it out.
yeah, well, they gave me studio space in kind, so that's something.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's why I end up moving, going to New York and then London because, I was quite isolated in Australia and I didn't have other people, other role models or other people that I knew about. Um,
Mm.
you know,
And then talk to me then about working with Candupo
mm,
and that experience and how that felt, because that's how you and I met at Candupo.
yeah. I mean, my time with Kendigo was amazing. I was fulfilling my dream of being in a rep company, it wasn't NDT, Netherlands Dance, it was what I imagined,
Mm,
there, but it was an amazing company where I got to feel included and um, yeah, I was offered a contract by Celeste Danica. I went to a summer intensive 1 year, and then in 2003, I was asked to join the company. So I did. I moved from Australia at that time to London, and I hadn't
mm.
lived in London before, so a whole new exploration. But
Wow.
career has always taken me like where I so like most artists or most dancers, where the work is. But I knew I wanted to keep dancing. And this was a wonderful opportunity. It, commissioned, at the time, their motto was to commission high-profile choreographers to make work,
Mm,
rep work on the company, and all their videos and all their work that I'd seen was all just through video and online. Um, Looked really amazing and, high caliber, I guess you'd say. Um,
mm,
yeah, and then when I did the summer intensive, I really enjoyed their work and they taught as well. So doing a lot of teaching, which I enjoyed doing as well. So
mm,
yeah, so I was there for 5 years with Kane to go and yeah, to a lot of amazing places around the world and got to make brilliant connections with people through the summer programs and yeah, and it sort of embedded me in the sort of UK scene because
mm.
imagine that I would stay here,
Yeah, exactly.
and here I am.
And it's funny then because, I think that's something that we've all hit upon with everybody that I've spoken to so far, is that those connections that you make, whether it be in the company or through summer intensives or just collaborating with different people in different ways, even if it's only for a few days, there some of those relationships are long lasting,
Mm,
forever and a day, and you can call upon them whenever. You mightn't see somebody for ages, and then you can just call
mm,
upon them and it appears and then it unfolds and unlocks itself. I mean, you and I, you just made me think of a cute memory. I don't know if you're going to remember this, but you and I met in 2007,
mm,
and I had just set up, I just had co-founded Craiglan at the time. So I was overworking my Cantico, and had gotten out of my wheelchair and I was sitting on the ground. Do you remember this? I
No,
was
that's how you get back in your chair. I'll find it.
I was trying to get back into my chair and put my wheels back on, and you were
Yeah.
standing there going, hmm,
Mm.
interesting,
Mhm.
interesting. How are you going to do this? And I was going, I don't know, but I have
Yeah.
to, I don't know, but I have to figure it out, you
Yeah.
know? And all of those friendships that I made at that time are still to this day long-lasting friendships, you know?
Mm.
So then rolling on to when you left Canduco then and you decided to set up Marc Brew Company. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I mean, Kenjico then got to a point where Celeste Danica, one of the co-founders, was retiring, and then they brought in Stina Nilsson and Pedro Machado, who with my colleagues, was dancing with them for the 5 years on as co-artist directors. So I just felt like it was a good time for me to lead. I wanted to be, the reason why I also joined Kenjico is because I wanted to be led by a disabled person, you know what I mean? To have
Yeah,
someone I can relate to, and someone who gets it, you know what I mean?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
disability perspective. So that
yeah,
really meant a lot to me. So when Celeste said she's going, I'm like, okay, I'm going.
yeah,
I
yeah.
was
And
invited,
I completely get that.
yeah,
100%. Yeah.
I was invited to stay, but I was doing more of my own choreographic work, and the only thing basically the downside of dancing at the time with Kenduko is they didn't really support us as choreographers as makers. So all the opportunities I tried to find was outside of my work with Kenduko, which I made
Mm,
work. But I just haven't got to a point where I was like, no, I think now I need to focus more on my what I want to say, what I want to bring, what can
yeah.
I share with the community through my learnings and my teaching and my choreographic work. So that was sort of the impetus for me to start and apply for
Mm,
funding and yeah, and then I started getting some funding in London and also some commissions. One of my first works I made in London after leaving was a piece called Nocturne, which is still
mm.
a favorite. It was done
Mhm.
two purpose-made designed beds. But often people will refer it to, oh, is that the bed piece? I'm like, yes, that. So I'm often reminded about that. But and that was commissioned by Bradley Hemmings at Greenwich and Docklands International Festival, who
Mm,
has really been at the forefront to really support diversity, disability, deaf artists and neurodiverse artists to have representation in that festival. So that's, they commissioned me to make a few works on outdoor. And the wonderful thing about outdoor work is, you get to engage with a bigger population because there's no barrier of cost.
true.
They don't have to go into a theater. They just stroll across and somebody's like, what are you doing? I'm like, well, I'm doing contemporary dance. What's that? Come back at 2 o'clock and come and see what it is.
Yeah, yeah.
And they start the conversation. So I really enjoyed those opportunities of engaging that way with like I said, larger audiences and community.
And I'm assuming that your preferred option is still working with people that have a very, it's quite disability led,
Hmm.
or there's somebody that you're collaborating with, and they have a very, very strong awareness of disability and disability policy and disability arts and all of that, and they might be an ally of somebody with a disability, or might have an impairment themselves in some way, shape, or form. How important is that to you?
Yeah, no, it's really important. I mean, it's sort of embedded in the work that I do. I mean, Marc Brew Company was set up to collaborate with extraordinary disabled and non-disabled artists, to
Mm,
make work. And it is
mm,
disabled led, and it is work that I want to make.
yeah.
Disabled choreographer and director, but I work extremely collaboratively.
Mm,
I really invest in the artists I'm working with, and they invest in the process and in me. So there's a lot of trust that's built, and we hopefully, well, we do, we make work that we're proud of, and really
yeah.
share that work. But alongside Mark Brew Company and me making the work that I want to make, I also do a lot of commissions. So that's like a whole different realm of like whether it's being commissioned by Scottish Ballet or Starts Theatre in Wiesbaden, or some contemporary dance companies like Eisenhower Dance Detroit. So there's a whole variety of different companies and also organizations that reach out to me to commission me to make work for their company or their organization.
Mm.
And that's exciting because I get to like go in and just do the dance, like make the work,
Yeah.
I need to do any of the producing or the building or making and all of that. So,
Yeah.
or bringing the money in. So I just get paid. But
To
um,
go in and create.
yeah, which is, and often I can get, when I was doing Stars Theatre, Starts Ballet in Wiesbaden, I mean, I had like 22 dancers I was working with, so it also sometimes enables me to work with a larger group of dancers.
Mm,
The interesting thing, no matter whether I'm working with an inclusive group or, a group of disabled, non-disabled artists, or a ballet company that has no sort of um, disability representation in the company,
yeah.
I always, have sort of the same way that I sort of start and end the day, and little sort of rituals that I bring as part of my process that everyone really appreciates and feels they get to learn it. Because what I want to, when I'm working with artists, I don't want to just work with a dancer being told what I'm going to tell them to do. I want to work with us so I can get to know them and who they are as people. So
Yeah,
bring out
absolutely.
conversations and questions, and really have an exchange during the process of making the work. And I just find, it's taken me years to get to this place, but I just feel so much more fulfilled. And I know the artists I work with do as well.
Yeah, because as you say, it's very you kind of work like I do in in that regard, that it's very collaborative,
Mm,
and the conversation is so important.
mm,
And to approach each person and each scenario with the eyes of a curiosity and a curious child's mind is a great way to be, and to
mm.
have that excitement behind it. How important do you feel it is for dance companies, or we'll say universities, or working collaboratively, to be very disability led or disability supported, that inclusive work is supported not only academically but in companies as well?
Yeah, Francis, I just want to give you also a nice sort of example. I just, with a commission I did recently, I also love working with youth and sort of the younger generation. I suppose I'm getting to an age where I want to make sure that I'm supporting sort of next generation younger.
Mm,
So I do work for like youth companies as well, which I absolutely love. And
mm,
I just recently did a commission for which I had to apply for, which these days, usually commissions come to me. But I just really, it was called Lothian Youth Dance Company, so they're based in Edinburgh, and I just really wanted to have an opportunity to engage with this community, with that
mm,
community, and bring my process. I feel like I had something I could share with them. So we were looking at the idea around something, being told you can't do something, like no, you can't do that, no, you can't do that, and how you persevere through that, or do you give up, or what is it that drives you? So we were exploring these ideas, and yeah, I have my sort of starting circle and ending together at the end of the day, little rituals that we do. And I only had 5 days to make this piece of work, and it was like 10
Wow.
minutes long. But, we worked very collaboratively. But the whole time I thought they didn't like me, I was like, oh my gosh, they hate this process. They're not really like, I try to make a joke and they're not laughing. Uh, or maybe I just don't get on with this teenagers anymore. Um, and then at the end, I was just like blown away because one, they didn't want it to end. They wanted my piece to be longer. So they went to the director and asked whether it could be extended so they could do more choreography.
Wow.
Wrote me this beautiful card, actually, which is here. They're
Aww.
all like written, like huge thanks. And I
Beautiful.
had no idea that, they didn't have that impact. And
See?
we do have this impact. And it's important that for me, especially this group, there was somebody in the group who was neurodiverse, but no one else with a physical or disability that I knew about or that was shared. But these people got the opportunity also to work with a disabled artist, which they wouldn't have had otherwise.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
be more of that. And thankfully, there are more people now from when I started 27 years ago.
Absolutely.
But this is where, going back to your question around opportunities within companies and organizations and universities, I think you can't just say, yes, we're doing, equity, diversity, inclusion without having, real pathways and engaging real opportunities for disabled, deaf, and neurodiverse people to access. And things may need to shift in the way that we do things to be able to make people feel included and that they feel that they're welcomed. Because also, I mean, I'm talking to this anyway, this whole life. Often, disabled people are told, no, you can't do this. I was told, no, I couldn't dance because of
Yeah.
disability. Um, and there are people
Y- yet, yet you didn't listen and you found your own pathway. But what if you were a person with a disability or, at the young age that you were, or the young age that I was at the time when I got that no, and
Mm.
you can go both ways.
Oh, totally.
You could completely leave it affect you and bring you right down a rabbit hole that you don't need to be going down, or you can just go flip this. This is what I'm doing.
Yeah, and that takes courage if you've never known that that could be an opportunity. Like if you've always been told no, you can't do it. If you have tried to get access into even like a local dancing school and they've said
Mm,
no, we don't know what to do with you, don't know how to include you in this, that can be, um, horrific for people to
yeah,
how do you get past that? My, you know, I sort of have both sides of experience, both sides of the fence, so to speak,
yeah, you
in
do.
regards to, having this traditional training. So I knew that I had these skills. I knew that I had these things. I just had to find other ways of doing it.
Yeah.
And me being very stubborn, which I have been known to be, um, I
Persistent.
am persistent, ambitious.
Yes.
Um, I um, I didn't take no for an answer, but yeah, but will so many people will hear that and go, okay, then well, it's not for me, and that's why it is important that I do a lot of, as you know, like a lot of teacher training work to go into universities, to go into
Mm,
schools, to, for teachers to come together, look at their practice
yeah.
and really sort of investigate and explore like what are the barriers that are there and how do you remove those barriers and how do you make
Yeah.
people feel welcome,
Yeah.
how do you engage with that community? So it may not be about opening up a class, bringing them to you. Maybe it's about you engaging in their community and
Yeah.
surroundings.
Yes.
So I do a lot of work around that. But yeah, for me, there wasn't a pathway after my disability. And I know that we're continuing here in the UK on about it, trying to get opportunities for disabled people to engage in sort of university settings or doing training programs within organizations, which, of course, a lot of the inclusive dance companies are doing. I mean, Stopgap's doing some really great work
Yeah.
around that.
And
Marc,
we're very lucky to be able to say with IDC that we're doing that as
oh,
well, you
yes,
know.
without a doubt, of course, without even mentioning that, IDC is the only one that well, the others, but when IDC started, what, a year ago? It was a year ago that you started, and I came and did my first.
2022 is when I came on board, but
Mhm.
IDC started in 2021. The origins of it started in 21, but I
But
came on board in 22.
to have a specific course on inclusive dance, I mean, where else is that happening? I mean,
Yeah,
I think when we've got to make things happen ourselves because, you're trying to get universities or other people who are sometimes gatekeepers to think about this way,
yeah.
and they just don't see the possibility. So,
And I think we've been exceptionally lucky with IDC with our partners, whether
mm,
it's Dance Cork Firkin Crane or whether it's Horizon, or whether it's been Rethink Ireland or whether it's been Cork ETB or all the other partners that we've worked with, because there's been it takes a village. And
yeah.
there's been, and I think that it's about finding your tribe, and it's something I constantly say, it's about finding your tribe. It really is.
Mm,
And you want to be surrounding yourself with people who are really, really like-minded, and but also know where your skill set, where I know what my skill set is as much as I know what Louise's skill set is, as much as I know what somebody else's skill set is, and working together for that common goal is vitally important.
mm.
um Talk to me a little bit about your piece that you created, An Accident, a Life.
Definitely. No, but before I do, once again, I want to add into what you were saying.
Mm,
Like here in Scotland as well, like, there are companies here that
mm,
work in theatre, more so theatre, and organizations that are doing a lot in regards to inclusivity.
mm.
Marc Brew company now has just for this first year ever, we've just received multi-year funding for the first time ever, which is the first contemporary
Amazing.
dance company in Scotland that's disabled led to get multi-year funding. And I've been making work here
Congratulations.
for like 16 years or so.
That's amazing.
Um, but partnerships is really important, and we've really connected with, Birds of Paradise, Solar Bear, White Ants, other organizations that work in this field to really
Yeah.
share the resources and experiences and, to try to create more opportunities for deaf, disabled, and neurodiverse people here in Scotland. So there's no inclusive dance cork or something similar to that like that here yet, but hopefully through our partnerships we're talking and trying to work out what opportunities we're all creating. How can we collaborate together?
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're singing my song, because that I really feel um that's the way to go. But I mean, with having you there and Mark Brew company there, at least they're getting the strongest source, you know. And
Mhm.
as you say, you've experienced in every which way, Mark. So I mean, that's only ever a good thing. And then the collaborations that you create with each other, uh, it's the best way. It's the only way I know how to work, to be
Mm.
honest with you. And it's my favorite way, because you don't know who's going to bring what to the table. You never really know.
I,
Yeah.
no, I was just going to share a little. It's not been made public yet and may not even happen. But one of my little ideas I've been brewing and working towards with our partners here in Scotland is similar to an idea or a thing a lab that I created when I was artistic director of Access Dance Company in
Mm.
Bay Area. So I was there as artistic director for 5 years. And when I was there, I developed a program called Choreo Lab, which is a choreographic lab residency.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Gladys that is disabled led, it was myself and I'd invite another disabled maker, disabled leader to facilitate and be a mentor on the program. And then people would apply and they would get dancers to work with. So plant the seed of an idea, choreographic work. So similar to that, I'm hoping to develop a program next year, fingers crossed. So keep it ear to the ground, called DARE, Disabled Artist Residency Exchange, which is about working with our partners, so with in theatre, music, and dance, to offer opportunities for disabled makers to have studio space to collaborate and converse together about theatre and dance making, performance making, to explore their craft in a mentored sort of opportunity. So yeah, when there aren't these opportunities around, sometimes you just got to make them happen. And
Yes.
look at IDC, all the people that you've had go through IDC. I mean, the workshops I did were like packed. Like there's so much people who want these opportunities. So there's a real
Uh,
need for it.
People are so thirsty for it now. But Dare, it sounds like, just to go back to Dare a second,
Yeah.
that's an incredible opportunity, Mark. I
Well,
mean, that makes, I mean, fingers crossed. I mean, really, I think that will just be, it will be incredible, and it makes such sense. It makes it, and
mm,
I think it will just fill the soul of so many different types of people, you
yeah.
know.
And like as we know, like one of the sort of barriers is financial costs for even like
Mhm.
come and do a program like that. So, obviously, we're still early days, but really trying to like get funding and find partners, financial partners that can help sponsor and donate to help make it so, people that do attend are being paid and accommodated.
Very important.
So,
Yeah,
um, so yeah, being realistic about all of those, like what does it truly mean to be inclusive, and
yeah.
trying to create space for that. But yeah, so we see, so that's a little seed that I'm planting, so watch out for that. And
Excellent. Like when little seeds are planting, that's
yeah,
always a good thing. Man
so
after
you
my
can
own
talk to me
heart.
later about there. But
Yeah.
yeah, so that'll be happening. And then talking about um my new work. Yeah, so
Yeah, well, let's talk about An Accident to Life, because that's just gotten incredible reception. I mean,
mm,
you've gotten some amazing feedback about that. So tell us about that, how that came to be in that process.
yeah, okay. I'll try to make it not too long.
No, we're
I don't
okay.
I don't want to bore.
We're okay. We're good.
But basically, when COVID hit and we're all stuck inside and all of that, I was at the time artistic director of Axis, and I came back to the UK, and I decided it was time for me to be an artist again and explore my work. I felt like I wanted to make a new work. I wanted to a new solo, or I would
Mm,
not really solo. I wanted to collaborate with another choreographer, director. That's what I wanted to do. And I'd always admired the work of Sidi Labi Chikawi, who's a Flemish Moroccan dance choreographer. He's like world famous. He's worked with Beyonce, Madonna, and lots of big companies. He's done amazing work with Akram Khan. I remember seeing Zero Degrees, which is one of the first pieces I saw. He also did an amazing piece with um, a group of monks that was fascinating. And Anthony Gormley, who was
wow.
is a designer. I think
Hmm.
Sutra, that's I think touring at the moment somewhere again. Um, but I didn't have his number, obviously. So
But you found a way.
yeah, well, it goes back to connections and making connections. So, the director of Hessian Starts Ballet, who commissioned me to make a work, said, "Who would you like to work with?" And I said, "Oh, Larby." He's like, "Oh, I know Larby. I'll give him a call." So, boom. So he put me in touch with Larby, and then during COVID, Larby and I started, emailing and then doing Zoom chats. He did then, and we started exploring possibilities through Zoom. We realized there was a lot of similarities between we're the similar age, a lot of similar things that happened in our lives. We both, identify being gay male, both have a really close relationship to our mothers and not so good with our fathers. We both had different types of surgeries and injuries. And so there are lots of things that we just, yeah, resonated with us both. And we felt a natural connection, straight away. And yeah, I said, well, would you be up for making it work with me? And he's like, yes, definitely. We didn't know what that work would be. And it
Mm,
started off just by interviewing each other and him interviewing me. And one day he just said, Mark, if you don't mind, if you feel comfortable, just do you mind sharing with me like what happened, because we never spoke about, the actual
mm,
crash. So I
yeah.
just started, as I do, go into like the spiel of the crash um and this was as a creative tool as well. So he was recording me saying it. And then he's like, well, obviously he's very grateful and obviously sad with what happened, but it is what it is. But
Mm,
he then wanted me as a choreographic tool to learn word for word the way that I say, for instance, like one section of the work of what I was talking about and all the mannerisms. So all of these hand gestures that I always do and the and the knee, that noise.
yeah.
And I'd never done anything like that before. And it was actually really, really hard. Like I know movement really well, but to learn exactly how you said something with all of the
Yeah.
motions, all the gestures was a extremely, fascinating and frustrating challenge. Um, and so we did that with a couple of different scenes, and then we got a residency in Germany in 2022 at the end in December. We had 2 weeks together, and that's when we sort of Labi and I sort of decided that we'll focus on this crash that happened and then their life after. How do you get your life back from such a tragic thing that happened? The journey of the ups and downs, the humor, in regards to my humor and personality, the help, the stubbornness, the drive, the resilience. um, so it's a real emotional ride and a roller coaster through the piece.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, from the R&D, we asked for, tools and props and things that we wanted. And one of those things was a car. And then working in Germany, where I was a big opera theatre, Staats Opera theatre, they obviously have lots of props and sets. So of course, they were able to get us a car and bring a car into the studio. And
Of
and to
course.
be able to have those facilities in R&D to have all those things available, like
It's unbelievable.
they could always make work in a Staats theatre, where you have access to workshop and props and sets um but yeah, that was just that opportunity. But so that's when we started exploring the movement of me moving around a car, me using text through the work to share the story, and then obviously out of the car on the floor. And that began the beginning of our collaboration, Making Accident Alive, which was originally called An Accident, and then we changed it later on when we realized actually it's more than just an accident. It's about,
Absolutely.
so
What happens after?
yeah, and it does go
Yeah.
all the way after, so um yeah, and then from the R&D, we were then in conversations and took time to then build partners because it was gonna, it was a big piece. It was gonna be it is a large scale, technically like a large scale piece. There are three performers. There's myself and two other performers on stage with me who help facilitate. And from the beginning, I should say this, with COVID, we used a camera from day one. It was like mobile phone camera and then an actual camera that was always around me, filming me as I was exploring the movement. Because
Mm.
it was with COVID that we would make a film first, like a dance film.
Okay, that would make sense for the time. Yeah.
And then, within the 2 years then of sort of building partnerships after the R&D, obviously theaters started opening up. And we then decided, or there was interest to make the work of live on stage. So
Mm.
one of our big partners was Steps Festival, which is in Switzerland. So
Yeah.
they commission as well as um, Tanzlieder in Wiesbaden. And yeah, so lots of partners actually. The biggest production that I've had that's being able to have so much support to be able to make the work. But there's LED screens in the piece that are on these tracks that slide. I'm out of my chair the whole way through the piece. But we worked with an amazing designer who works a lot in film named Pepin, and he designed this modular piece of furniture really that transforms almost. So starts off as a sofa, then it goes into a bed, then it goes into um, a pillar, and then it goes into being sort of under the plane or under the luggage department, luggage. I'm trying to say on a plane. Anyway, the luggage. Where you put your luggage.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's quite amazing, like all these pieces and all the props. That.
And how, Mark, then did, as the process was developing and you were together in person and for
Mm,
that R&D for the 2 weeks, how did that whole process feel for you?
mm.
And then when you got on stage and you did it for the first time, how was that?
Yeah, I mean, working with Lab, I mean, we built trust quite quickly. I mean, as I said earlier, we had this natural bond that sort of built really easily,
Mm.
and he's always fascinated with body. So, and he was always with care. Like he was always curious, and then he would see me do things, give me directions. Can we try this? Then he'd get on the floor or get with me and try on his body, and then I would try it. So it was really extremely collaboratively and with care, But also he really pushed me to go to places, and that's why I wanted to work with another choreographer because
Yes.
obviously I get used to my way of moving and what feels comfortable to me, but I really wanted someone with this
It's
work
going to push you.
push me. which
Yeah, yeah.
is I've never done. And to do a whole, like the piece is an hour and 23 minutes, and the whole time I'm on stage, and there's text all throughout it, So for me to use that part of my brain as well as the body and costume changes, continuous costume changes. I get suspended up, I become an angel, there's like lots of, interesting things that happen during the piece.
Mm,
Our collaboration has been really strong and really fruitful for me as an
good,
artist. And
good. That's what I was about to say. I was going to say, and how has it been for you now after doing it? You said it's
yeah.
really few. Has it been cathartic?
In some ways, I mean, I didn't go into to make that, to
Yeah,
for it to happen. And I should state as well, like my whole intention originally was that Larby and I would be in a work together to make a duet together.
yeah.
But as things started to progress, he became more focused on my story. And then one day I'm like, hey, Larby, how are we going to get you in here now? Like, what's going on? He's like, he said, he just feels that my story is so important and, needs to be told, that he didn't want to bring his story in
Mm,
that could potentially dilute the power of, the narrative and the story. Um,
that's incredible.
but he was
That's
amazing.
incredible.
He was, through all the interviews that were done, with me,
Mm.
he then sort of scripted them together. We then decided together what parts of the story, because we could have went on forever and ever with loads of stories,
Mm.
parts to put together, and then put the piece in. And then when it premiered at Steps Festival. No, where did it premiere? No, sorry, Holland Dance Festival it premiered in. It was amazing. I mean, basically, we were still making it up until the premiere, like the day
Oh, wow.
it still hadn't been finished. We're still getting,
Wow.
and ever since then, he, because Labi really believes in the work so much that he's traveling with us wherever he can to be there.
Yeah, yeah.
But each time he comes, he makes changes.
Yeah, it's forever evolving.
It's forever evolving. So
Yeah, yeah.
when we're next performing in London,
I was just about to say you're performing in London. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
maybe if anyone's around in London wants to come along, make a trip, we'll be in London the 25th.
25th, 26th, and 27th.
Well done, September. Yeah, we'll be at Saddle as well as East, which is their new venue in Stratford, which is amazing. I've already been there and had a recce of the space. So it's a big, large space, just like the main space in Angel at Saddle as well.
Mm,
But the seating is not as big, so it's like I think about 500 seater. So it's
okay.
intimate, but space, if that makes sense.
Mm.
So it'll be
Okay, and just repeat the dates for anybody who didn't catch that.
September 25, 26, 27.
Yeah, that would be amazing. I mean, I was meant to go and see the piece,
I know,
and just
Glasgow, you come in
it was
Glasgow.
just wasn't doable, unfortunately. But it's incredible, Mark, and I've had a similar experience myself. I was born with my disability, but I had a very, very bad accident in 2013 that
Mm,
changed everything for me as well. So
mm,
I think we have something in common in that regard because you're trying to rebuild.
mm, mm,
Similar but not similar. You're trying to rebuild a sense of yourself, and then who are you as a dancer, as an artist. So that's something that I'm interested in exploring
mm,
myself, and currently exploring around my own accident and wanting to build a piece around that. So I'm
mm.
currently doing stuff around that myself. So I can relate. Now, on a totally different note, talk to me about Boys Don't Dance.
Yeah, I keep doing this to you. I will, but you made me want to say something else. Like when you start giving me your stories, I'm like, oh, that reminds me of this. But in regards to, what was really important about this work is I wanted to make a piece
Mm,
as a disabled artist that would and could be seen on these large scales, which often
yeah.
work by disabled artists is always on small to medium scale.
Yes. Yes, yes,
Um,
yes.
so this
But
is
you have to have the budget though.
Yeah, oh, to make the work, yeah.
Yeah.
Then you need to find, yeah, people that can pay for it, 'cause
And
it's an expensive show. But that has been challenging in regards to bookings for the work
mm,
because people think, oh, it's a solo, so but it is a large scale piece and it is, immersive in so many ways. It's very cinematic. But
have
um
you ever had to, I'm just kidding. No, you're bringing me off on a different tangent. Oh well. Um, have you ever found it restricting because it's such a big piece?
yeah,
Have you run into trouble where you've had to pare it back or edit it back
well,
and
we had,
it's
yeah, definitely. And like, yeah, we've definitely had to be creative. One of the first things is to make sure that the theatre can rig a car
Hmm.
and wait.
Yes.
So if it can't rig the car, then we can't do it in that venue, basically. Um, but when we were in Germany, we were in Wiesbaden and Berlin, and they had more traditional theatres with proscenium arch. So
Mm.
and we have our LED screens that are on these runners, these slides or
Mm.
and the stage wasn't wide enough because of the proscenium arch in the front. So we had to make the diagonals a lot sharper, which meant the restricted viewing was happening in the audience. So
I see.
we've had to do things like that, which has been unfortunate. But we want to get the work seen. But people often want the work, and then when they realize technically, what the work is, yeah, it can be a barrier, I guess. But
But I think people make the assumption because, as you say, it's a solo, that
yeah,
it's not going to be a big piece and
yeah,
it's going to be easy
yeah,
to
yeah.
move around.
The good thing is about this work is, that we have received amazing recognition, as you mentioned earlier. I mean, The Guardian gave us 5 stars, we've had all five, yeah, 5 and 4 stars, reviews, from Observer, the Herald, like all of these amazing reviewers who see a lot of dance. And we actually got nominated this year, which is the first time I've ever been nominated or known of any other disabled artist being, but if anyone else knows, please tell me. But for the National Dance Awards.
Yeah, amazing.
So we got nominated for Best Choreography for Larbi and myself, and then Best Male Modern or Extraordinary Male Performance, which I was also nominated for. Unfortunately, we didn't win, but I sort of guessed that when I went to the venue in London. I was at the Barbican Theatre, and it was in one of their cinema sort of spaces. So it had
Yeah.
stairs going all the way down to the stage, and
Yeah, yeah.
me, oh Mark, we've just put you in the balcony at the top.
Oh well, the cue's
Okay.
there. The
That means I'm
cue's
not going to
there.
win an award, isn't it? Like that's still happening.
Yeah,
Why?
when we won, when just as a note, when we won the Business to Arts Award,
Hmm.
I'm with our collaboration with UCC and Dance Cork Firkin Crane and IDC. I was sitting at the edge by the door.
Oh,
So I kind of went, oh well, that's an interesting. Like I couldn't be more easy accessed out of the place. And they said, oh, if you're success, like we didn't know, and said, oh,
oh,
if
you
you're successful,
did.
we're just going to come down and a little bit of a whisper in your ear. And the
Oh,
girl came down and she had a little bit of a whisper in my ear, and she was like, "You've won." So
oh.
kind of be cool. And I was like, oh my
Did they
God.
have a ramp on stage at all for you or anything?
Yeah, it was really accessible. I
Yeah.
mean, I had to no, but I had to walk around the main foyer area and go through a backstage a different way. But it was fine. It was fine.
Like
But
the rock star route.
yeah, yeah, yeah. At least I kind of had a feeling. It's funny when you said it. You were sitting up, up
Yeah,
in up in heaven. It was so
yeah,
high. And
away
when I
from
was
everybody else.
yeah, yeah, while I was sitting at the door, I was like, "That's a very interesting place to be
Yeah,
sitting. That's a
yeah.
good sign." Now, I want to hit on two things very
Right.
quickly because they're very important. So we'll be brief.
Uh,
It says, and you call me the chatterbox
no,
between the pair
you
of us.
you just make me start talking and I just can't shut up. So
Mm.
apologies, everybody. So
No, 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 no. You're delightfully. You're joking. So
uh,
talk to me very quickly about Boys Don't Dance.
so this is a new work that I'm making next year. I'm going uh doing R&D this November. I've got auditions tomorrow actually. So um basically it's been commissioned by Imaginate, which is based in Edinburgh, and they run International Children's Festival every year. So
Mm,
they program and do a lot of work and support artists to make work for young audiences. So I made one work for young audiences in Dublin actually at the Arc a couple of years ago called The Race. So this will be my
mm,
second piece for young audiences. And yeah, I put the idea in actually for a different type of funding, for unlimited funding here in the UK, which is looking at my experience growing up, in a small village, in sort of outback rural Australia, and being the only boy that danced and told because of the boy I couldn't dance, and
yeah.
the whole stereotype around that, and then also then drawing on the experience of acquiring my disability and being disabled and told I couldn't dance as well. So I'm sort of interweaving, these moments in my life to tell this story, hopefully to a younger audience that will be able to see through this work that sometimes you've got to make your own pathway and it may be different, but it may be just as rewarding. So yeah, and just the empowerment of yeah, following your dreams, without sounding too nice. But yeah,
Creating your own roadway, creating your own
yeah,
pathway.
career
Yeah.
and maybe different, but there are other ways to do things. So that, yeah, I'm really excited, but also really nervous. I haven't, the last piece we made was an Accident Life, and that was such a huge show.
Yeah.
Almost like I think I've got a bit of like, they call it like second album syndrome when you've done, used to, you show one shows or one album's been really successful. It's like, how do you make something after that?
Yeah.
But
No,
no, I'm really feeling excited by this, and the idea is to double cast it. So I'll have two people sort of playing one character, a disabled dancer, and a non-disabled person. So how that interweaves in stories and narratives using visual projections. So I do, embedding access into it, so audio description and captions and signing. Depends on.
gosh.
I don't imagine it'll be too text heavy because it's for a younger audience, but there'll be a little bit at the beginning, I guess. But yeah, so that's going to be premiere. And start making in January next year, and then it premieres in May next year at Edinburgh International Children's Festival.
Fantastic. So May of next year at Edinburgh's Children's
Yeah,
Edinburgh's Festival. That's
yeah.
fantastic. That's going to be incredible, Mark. I
Oh,
mean,
okay.
it really will. And I mean, it's I can understand why you would be slightly nervous, but
Mhm.
it's going to be a completely different realm.
Yeah,
And
different scale, different.
and
Yeah.
you've also worked, I mean, you thought that youth group didn't particularly like you, and they gave you a thank you card and wanted to
Yeah.
extend your
They
work.
gave me a
So
thank you card. That's my.
walk in with the attitude that everybody loves you.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
No,
I'm Marc Brew. Everybody likes me. I'm
oh,
fine. You
no,
know.
thank you.
You're coming back to us.
Yes, I can't wait.
You're coming back to us
Waiting
on
for
the 14th and 15th of September to beautiful IDC at our lovely home at Dance Cork Firkin Crane.
Falcon Crane. Love.
What can people expect?
A bit of me. No. Me.
My fabulousness.
Yeah, I think, yeah, people just to expect for an opportunity to share and exchange. Often I will, I want to get to, as I mentioned earlier, get to know the people that I'm working with, share my skill and practice in inclusive dance, have fun, enjoy. There'll be moments of interaction, of course, and chances to learn from each other.
Yeah.
And choreographically as well, exploring some of my choreographic work and the principles and practices that I use in making work. So yeah, it's 2 days, but they'll fly by, and I'm just glad to have this opportunity that that's available for people who want to work in this field.
Yeah, and I mean, we're always delighted when you come over, because it's always really fruitful, and people always really enjoy it and really love it. And when you come over, there's always a huge demand for you to come back, which is lovely.
Mhm.
So we're very excited about having you over on the 14th and 15th of September, and there's still places available so people can sign up. It's busy though, so I wouldn't be messing around if you're interested in coming to Mark's workshop, 14th, 15th. Mark, I'm going to open the conversation for people to ask the Q&A because we're hitting on 7:30. So if anybody's got any questions or comments to Mark,